Welcome to session 2 of creating your customer avatar, and this is where we're going to start segmenting your market. And we're going to learn how to go big by focusing small. And the irony of that is that in order for you to make the most money and have the most return and have the most abundance and success, you need to actually find the smallest segment of people to go after first. And that is actually the fastest way to go big. I know it sounds a little ironic, but it's true. So the first thing we want to look at is, what is the definition of a market segment? Well, a market segment is a defined group of people who share the same problem or passion and speak the same language. And when I say speak the same language, I don't mean that they all speak English. I mean that they use words in common. So in our yoga tribe, we use the words namaste, and we all know what shavasana is. And we're speaking the same language when we're talking about energy. What you want to do is treat your marketing as a desirability problem of your customers. What do I mean by that? Well, when a lot of people are looking at, okay, where do I find my customers? And say, well, maybe my customers who buy a particular kind of handbag, maybe they all read Vogue magazine. So maybe I should advertise in Vogue magazine. Or maybe they all drive BMWs, and so maybe I should find readers who like BMWs and advertise on those websites or those blogs. And the reality is that is a very poor way to segment your market. A much better way to segment your market is to figure out a group of people that have a very, very specific problem or a very specific desire, and focus on solving those problems and helping them achieve that specific desire. Why do those who buy, buy? And I see here it says, why do those buy? It should say, why do those who buy, buy? So here's the thing. When successful entrepreneurs are asked who will buy their product, the most successful entrepreneurs will not say, well, it's women between the ages of 18 and 74. Or they won't list specific demographics. Even though I hear a lot of entrepreneurs out there, when I say, hey, who are your customers? They say, all women, and just kind of stop there. Or they say, they start making demographic references. Well, the thing is, the most successful entrepreneurs are very specific buyers. They're very specific about who their buyers particular pains or who the buyers are, and defined as what particular pain they have or what passion they have or what specific need they have, not so much their demographics. So here's an example of good market segmentation versus weak market segmentation. Weak market segmentation on the left hand side, well, we're going to segment the market by one market is 18 to 25 year olds. All 18 to 25 year olds and all 26 to 25 and so on. You get the idea. And the thing is, there's nothing in the left-hand side that helps you define the market other than the age range. Well, are there a lot of different problems that people have who are ages 41 to 55? There's a tremendous amount of different problems, and there's a lot of people in that age range who don't identify themselves with one another just because they're the same age. Just because somebody's in a class with you, or just because you meet somebody at a bar or a restaurant that happens to be your same age, are you going to have anything in common with them automatically? The chances are no. On the right-hand side, this good marketing segmentation creates real insight. So I'm looking for the 26 to 25-year-olds who are technically inquisitive, or Apple's customers are people who love being different. I'm looking for people who are influenced by their peers, and they will see that social proof will work for those people. There are some people where packaging is everything. If you're selling nail polish or certain types of soap. There are other people who price is everything. They're very frugal, or they're very cynical. They're very skeptical about things. Those are way better market segmentations that will really help you understand your customer's pain problem and help you get more of those specific kind of customers. So here's the thing. I hear all the time from entrepreneurs, I don't want to pigeonhole myself. And I am going to argue that actually you do. And ironically, the way to go big is to focus small. The biggest entrepreneurial trap is to try and be all things to all people. And the big companies get big by being a few things to a large number of people. So here's a great example. Imagine if you met a commercial fisherman. What would be a question that you would ask? Well, you might say, well, what kind of fish do you catch? Could you imagine a commercial fisherman who responded, all fish in the sea? Well, that is likely a very, very unsuccessful commercial fisherman. There's no commercial fisherman out there that would ever try and go out and fish for all fish in the sea. Why? Well, if there is one type of fisherman who goes after Alaskan king crab, they're going to have very, very different equipment than a longline sword fisherman who's going to have very different equipment than somebody who fishes for oysters or clams or shrimp for that matter. So the reason why there are some commercial fishermen are very successful are because they're very, very specific. And they get all of their eggs in one basket, or they completely pigeonhole themselves, and because of that, they're very, very successful. Another example is for us, one of our markets, there's a lot of people teaching social media right now. However, as far as I know, of all of the people out there that are teaching social media to enlightened entrepreneurs, helping you get conscious customers from Facebook, I believe I'm the only one. There may be somebody else out there, but I haven't met him yet. And what that means is this is a great book that I read called Blue Ocean Strategy. And what Blue Ocean Strategy means is when you can find a market, and a big part of that can be pigeonholing yourself. If you can find a very, very narrow, specific market, you can be the market leader. When it comes to finding wellness center real estate in Costa Rica, I'm pretty much the world's foremost expert. There's very, very, very few other people in the world that know more about that than I do. And it is a very, very specific market. But because I went after a very, very specific market, in fact, I only had a market of a total of 7 customers even possible in my specific market, we did $1.5 million in sales because we pigeonholed ourselves. The next thing that is important when you're doing your customer avatar interviews is to understand that you may have a product or solution that doesn't fit your market. And so if you are focused on one market segment, you're going to be focused on solving their problems. And what you need to do in order to be successful is to be solution agnostic. What do I mean by that? I mean that whatever your customers' problems are, if you're able to add a tremendous amount of value and you're passionate about adding that value, so I'm assuming that it will be a fit for you, these customers will be a fit for you and your services, you need to be prepared to create the solution that meets their need. And it may not be the existing product that you have today. It may not be your existing solution today. You may need to make some changes. There's a great book that I'm reading right now called The Lean Entrepreneur. They've written 2 books: The Lean Startup, written by Eric Ries, and then the follow-up book, The Lean Entrepreneur, that I really like. And what they had done is talked about some of the most successful Silicon Valley companies. And what the most successful Silicon Valley companies are doing today is they'll come out with a product that is totally unfinished. It's a product that meets one need to a very specific market segment, and it's a product that is rushed to market. So it's got all kinds of imperfections in it. And they go and find some early adopter buyers for that product. And then they start getting feedback on how they can improve that product. Well, the best thing about this is you can get to market with a version 1.0 of your product very quickly, easily, and inexpensively. And then you create a feedback loop. You put out your product or service, you ask for feedback, and you can do that in your customer avatar interviews. And then with that feedback, you can change your product. In fact, when you're creating and selling information products, the most successful information product marketers, they do not finish their products before they sell them. They will create a course based on customer feedback, and before the course is finished, they'll start the first several sessions, and they'll have lots of questions with their customers saying, what do you most want to learn? What is your biggest problem that I can help you solve? And from that, they create the perfect course that meets the customer's needs. It's a way higher value proposition than building the course first, then selling it, and finding out that you missed the mark on a bunch of different items that could have been much better if you had simply followed the lean startup model and created a feedback loop. So proper market segmentation, in order for you to properly segment your market, you need to understand why a customer asked for a particular feature or service. So as you go through, starting to ask your customers the questions of what's your biggest problem, what is your biggest challenge, what's your biggest fear, frustration, wants, and aspirations. Different customers are going to say different things. It's important for you to understand why. And this is why I want you to record your conversation so that you don't have to sit there and be typing notes all the time. When you get feedback from someone, you want to dig a little bit deeper and ask them specifically why they asked for a particular product or feature. And the more you know about your subsegments, the more you're going to know about how to attract that particular group to create a problem statement for each segment. So I'm going to go into what a problem statement is in just a moment. But here is here's one of my customer avatars. So one of my customer avatars is the yoga professional. I have lots of yoga entrepreneur customers, and that's why I created my specific product called Attract Yoga Customers now. And in these, for these specific customers, so what you're looking at here is not a real person, but this is a compilation from 9 customer avatar interviews of one segment of my market. And this particular market segment was for people who are looking for Costa Rica yoga retreats. So we discovered when we were selling a $2,500 Costa Rica yoga retreat that when we were asking our customers, why do you want or need a Costa Rica yoga retreat, we were getting a lot of interest from people who had finished their 200-hour yoga certification and for some reason were registered nurses. There was just lots of registered nurses who were tired of being nurses, and they went and got their 200-hour yoga certification, but they weren't making enough money in yoga to be full-time, but that's what they really wanted and desired. So because we had a very, very specific market segment, we were able to create our advertising to speak exactly to Jennifer, our yoga professional, or she wanted to be a yoga professional but was a registered nurse. And so we were able to create marketing that said, you know, are you tired of the unfulfilling job? Are you ready to de-stress and finally take a vacation? Come and deepen your yoga practice. Want to avoid long-term health problems and don't want to turn out like your mother? or don't want to turn out like my mother, as a quote of one of our prospective customer interviews. And those were very, very powerful marketing message, all derived from our customer avatar interviews. And then we segmented the market. Some of those, the messages for nurses, we just found places where the nurses were hanging out on Facebook looking for yoga. And we found this very specific market, and we were able to fill a 20 spots on a $2,500 yoga retreat in Costa Rica, $50,000. So it will, in order to go big, you need to go narrow. So what we're going to do is you're going to create your customer's problem statement. So I'm first going to give you an example of a customer problem statement. Now remember, I talked about creating the marketing habit, and we're going to continue to create the marketing habit. So part of why you're going to interview 9 customers is you're going to get in the habit of interviewing people. And so I've gotten into the habit of interviewing prospective customers and customers daily. I had 4 interviews today. And just one, this is an example of just one that I had today. So creating your customer problem statement example. So the first question is, what is your most lucrative customer's number 1 problem? So for an example, I was talking with a prospective customer today. And they said, my number 1 problem is not having enough consistent income. And what is your number 1 frustration? Number 1 frustration is not having a profitable online business that affords me to pay for my kids' camp. Now keep in mind, that's very specific. And so when I say I want you to get specific, when I first asked the question of what's your biggest problem, it's money, not having enough money. Well, I don't want you to stop there. I said, well, what about not having enough money? What would you do if you had enough money? Oh, I would take my kids to camp, and I would finally be able to pay for Jennifer's camp and Justin's camp. I would finally be able to take them to camp. And then what is your number 1 fear? My number 1 fear is I wake up at 3 a.m. regularly with no idea how I'm going to make the mortgage. And I'm terrified. You know, my pulse is racing, I'm sweating, I can't even sleep, I feel nauseous. That's what I'm really afraid of. Okay, now we are talking. Now we really understand our customer's problem. And within this, we're going to create our customer's problem statement. And the reason why we're creating our customer's problem statement is because the most successful entrepreneurs, when they're out and about, they know how to recognize a customer. And here's how I know to recognize a prospective customer that fits this model. When I hear somebody saying the words that basically say, I'm sick and tired of living paycheck to paycheck and not having the abundance that I should have at this stage in my life and provide for my family. Now that's a problem that I know how to solve, and that's a problem that people are willing to pay to solve. So what you're going to do is you're going to create your customer's problem statement. So here is your action item and your exercise. You're going to create your customer's problem statement, and the first 3 questions you're going to ask is, what is your most lucrative customer's number 1 problem? Now, why do we start with the most lucrative customer? Well, because that's the one you want to replicate. What is their number 1 problem as it relates to your service or your solution? What is their number 1 frustration that they just wish would go away? And finally, and most importantly, is what is their number 1 fear? And with these 3 pieces of information, you're going to create your customer's problem statement. And this is the problem that you are going to be able to solve. Remember, as entrepreneurs, you are in the business of solving problems. I don't care what it is you do, you solve a problem in order for people to pay you. And that's what we're going to figure out exactly how to articulate right now. And the final reason why we're doing this is if you can articulate your customer's problem better than they can themselves, they will look to you as the solution to their problem, and they will pay you for that solution. So that's your action item. Go do this exercise right now, and we will see you in the next session.